قل هاتوا برهانكم إن كنتم صادقين.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. So in today's video we'll be talking about once again Razi or Ahmadian answer, the most viewed, the most subscribed Ahmadian YouTube channel, and a lot of time he just lies. Okay, I'm sorry, but that's just the case. Unfortunately. So in a previous video I talked about how Razi lied and misled his followers by saying that Baha'u'llah claimed to be God himself, or the one true God. Well, that's not necessarily the case, and he doesn't really understand Baha'i theology. So in this video I'm going to be teaching him, and hopefully you all, about the Baha'i faith and Baha'i theology. Because the thing is that the way that he claimed himself to be God is very similar to Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. And when Razi is calling one a prophet and one a false prophet, he's just shifting the goalpost here. Because, well, they made a very, very similar claim. And I'll show you how.
That Baha'u'llah in reality claimed to be God himself rather than that of a prophet. Many do not know what kind of things he said, as his books are nowadays hidden. This video will try to bring out his true teachings and what he actually believed, and make it clear that they have nothing to do with Islam.
Okay, so a few things. First, he said that the books are not readily available for Baha'ism. Well, that is not necessarily true. The faith is pretty small, and they don't work on their books that much. And the second thing he said is that Baha'u'llah claimed to be the God. That is also not necessarily true, and I'll show that on in the later in this video. But you see that he made this claim that Baha'u'llah claimed to be God, and that Baha'u'llah is not part of Islam. Well, you see, Baha'ism is a branch of Babism, and Babism is a branch of Ismaili Shiaism, and Ismaili Shiaism itself is a branch of Shiaism, and Shiaism is itself a branch of, well, Islam. You see, it's more complicated than Razi makes it seem.
Decisions and power remembers you at such a time when he is surrounded by sadness. Now he uses the title Your Master, the Master of Decisions, and the Master of Power for himself. Clearly these are titles of divinity. Next he states that the one who speaks in the mighty prison of Akka is the maker of everything, and he is their creator as well. He carried the misfortunes of the world on himself to keep the world alive, and he is the mighty name who has always been hidden. Now this quote does not require any explanation. It is clear that Baha'u'llah was claiming to be God. Baha'u'llah.
Okay, so Razi made and quoted a few quotes from the Baha'i faith. And you see, the thing is that he doesn't really understand the theology of Baha'ism. He should have done a little bit more research on the theology, because you see, Baha'u'llah didn't claim to be the one true God. This is not the case. That's a lie. That's a lie. And I'm just not saying this by myself. And I'm not going to use my own interpretation of their scriptures. No, I'm going to use someone who's authoritative, such as this guy, Shoghi Effendi. He is literally the grandson and the successor of Abdul Baha, and the appointed guardian to the role of guardian of the Baha'i faith from 1921 until his death in 1957. So I'm not making my claims up. Well, let's start off by reading this. So he says that, I am but a man like you. Say praise be to my Lord. Am I more than a man, an apostle? So he first tells people that he is a man like them. Okay, then he said that, and then he asked them, am I something more than that? So you see, you might be thinking that there's a contradiction. First he's claiming to be God, and then he's saying this. But you see, that's not the case. It's not the contradiction. That's the part of the theology, that they say that all prophets, all messengers were manifestation of God. They had this essence of godliness in them. So all prophets, they believe, are manifestation of God, and the manifestation of God are not themselves literally God. Okay, and let's see what Shoghi Effendi has to say about this. So he states that manifestation should never be identified with the invisible reality, the essence of divinity itself. In relation to Baha'u'llah, the Guardian wrote that the human temple that has been the vehicle of so overpowering a revelation is not to be identified with the reality of God. Okay, so you can clearly see that Baha'u'llah and Shoghi Effendi say that these manifestations, these prophets, are not in reality God is themselves, but only have this substance of godliness, which is still kufr, but it is not what Razi is saying. So Razi is misleading his audience in a really, really big way. Okay, so you can clearly see here that Baha'u'llah didn't believe that he was literally God. See, what the theology of Baha'ism is that they believe that these manifestations of God, such as the Baha'u'llah believes that all prophets were, are made of two essence. They have this duality within them. They have this nature of, or the substance of God, okay, which is like the nature of God, and then they have this human nature. So when this human nature is subtracted, okay, when taken out, when they give out the human nature, they leave it, and then only nature is left is of God, then they become these manifestation of God, but still they're not in reality God themselves. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claims some very similar things.
Allah the Almighty states in the Holy Quran regarding the Prophet ﷺ, so you killed them not, but it was Allah who killed them, and you threw not when you threw, but it was Allah who threw. This shows us that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was completely lost in Allah the Almighty. It does not mean that he was literally God.
Well, you see, he's interpreting this verse in a way that says that Muhammad ﷺ was so in with God, okay, with his essence, or with, and then Prophet ﷺ wasn't doing anything from his own will, and it was just the will of God. So in that sense, it was God doing it, not Muhammad ﷺ. Well, you see, Baha'u'llah had a very similar theological view. When this essence of human nature is subtracted and all that is left is a nature of godliness, okay, then this is, well, the manifestations of God. So from here we can clearly see what Baha'u'llah and Baha'i theology is. The mysterious and eternal being, the manifestation of God, has a human nature which pertains to the world of matter, and a spiritual nature born of the substance of God himself. He is endowed with double station. So if he claims to be God, he is not saying that his being, or Baha'u'llah himself, is God. It is the nature of God talking. Okay, so it is not in sense that Baha'u'llah claimed to be God himself. If he claimed to be God himself, then he's claiming that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was God. Baha'u'llah is claiming that, and Isa ﷺ was God, and all messengers and all prophets in theology or in Baha'ism is God. That is not the case. That is not what they teach. They teach that they were manifestations of God with a dual nature. And the funny part is that Mirza Ghulam also claimed very similar things. Once he said that I saw in one vision that I am God, and then I firmly believed in it. And then in another source you can clearly see that he says God came into my existence, and then my anger, forbearance, leniency, and then he's made this absurd claim that I created, and then confirming the wishes of the truth, I gave it into its format. We will create man from a piece. So he said that God came on to me. In Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's theology, it's like when you don't do anything from your will, then God is doing everything, using you as a tool, or through you, and you have no will of your own self. This is very Sufistic type understanding. Okay, and then, but that's not even the problem of that's not the biggest issue. The issue is that he then claimed to make the absurd claim that I am God, or he made this claim as the first person of God. So by now I have clearly shown that Razi didn't understand the theology of Baha'ism, and secondly, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad made similar claims. Okay, they're not exactly the same claims, but they both are claims that are considered kufr by most Muslims. The ijma will be that is a kufri claim. So a special pleading that the Qadiani Razi is doing for Mirza, and Mirza had done very similar things. When Mirza does it, they say that he's a great prophet. But when this Baha'u'llah does it, they say that no, he never claimed to be a manifestation or a prophet. No, he claimed directly to be God, when he didn't claim that at all. you can clearly see from this video, he didn't claim to be, in essence, the reality of God himself. And with that, I'll be ending the video. Let me know what I should post next. Like, share, subscribe, whatever. Thank you all for watching. Ma salama.